Hello, my name is Mark Scheidler. I'm a founder of an R&D consultancy based in the Washington, D.C. area called Human First Therapeutics. I work closely with the Charcot-Marie-Tooth Association, developing its research strategy and alliances. And we'd like to talk today about a broad capability we put into place to provide preclinical testing in our alliances in support of therapy development for Charcot-Marie-Tooth disorders. The CMTA STAR Consortium was launched as a means to facilitate collaboration and accelerate therapy development in rare hereditary peripheral neuropathies. These disorders are collectively called Charcot-Marie-Tooth neuropathies. The diseases can affect myelin-producing Schwann cells in the peripheral nervous system, leading to demyelination. These are called type 1 disorders, or in the peripheral nerve, leading to an axonopathy. These are called type 2 disorders. In both cases, there's a progressive neurodegeneration and increasing deficits in balance, walking ability, and grip strength. The overall disease prevalence is 1 in 2,500, and the diseases are of known genetic causation, making them attractive candidates for therapeutics development. There's a high unmet medical need, as there are no disease-modifying therapies for patients currently available. The starting point in developing a therapy program is to recognize that a variety of skill sets need to come together and collaborate in order to advance promising ideas in the lab bench testing in patients. STAR was created as such a collaborative vehicle for the CMTA. Initially starting out as a network of sponsored scientific and clinical investigators active in CMT research, the state of knowledge has advanced such that professional drug developers needed to enter the conversation, and key gaps in preclinical testing filled by service research organizations specialized in cell and animal model creation and neurological testing. In the case of STAR, the CMTA is acting as a key convener of the organizations and people needed to put the whole picture together. I'm providing this slide as an overall snapshot of STAR activity that CMTA has recently assembled. I'm not going to go through all the fine detail, but I'm showing it to you to convey the sense of commitment the organization has. What I'd like you to come away with is that the CMTA has a track record now encompassing 32 alliances. Over 50 collaborative sponsored research projects have been funded in multiple CMT disorders, including all those with the highest disease frequency. And over $15 million has been spent in an active and lean management effort, allowing the CMTA to make progress in moving potential treatments from bench to bedside. I want to now focus on different models we've used to engage in alliance activities, primarily at the drug discovery and preclinical phases. Our first partnerships have been collaborative research alliances, where there's shared know-how, work effort, and funding. These are vertically integrated relationships where drug discovery efforts, if successful, would further migrate to preclinical and clinical stage work. We've also engaged in smaller entrepreneurial alliances where the CMTA has a principal responsibility to move a project forward. Our preclinical option alliances, the CMTA bears a cost of drug validation and in turn gets an option to acquire the test asset. The rest of my talk, I want to focus on preclinical testing alliances, an area where we've seen a good deal of interest and activity. All of these alliance activities are what I call therapy agnostic. We're involved in advancing genetic, small molecule, and biological therapies. Getting the structure right is key in making this work, and I'm going to pass along some of our learnings, the key ingredients in putting a preclinical therapy evaluation program in place. The CMTA has assembled preclinical toolboxes for different disorders. This allows proof of principle testing of the role of therapeutic target in the disease process. There's also an expert ability to evaluate if a therapy can arrest or even reverse a CMT disease pathology, and this is an attraction to a company interested in seeing if it can position an asset it has into a CMT disorder. Alliances are conducted by a broad CMT expert and pharmaceutical testing network, and the key operational elements to implementing a toolbox approach include expert direction for study planning and project execution, therapy evaluation by a network of leading specialty service groups, and straightforward agreements for protecting and sharing data. The preclinical toolbox essentials mostly center around the animal models. The CMTA has either made or licensed models for use in therapeutic evaluation. There's freedom to operate for both research use and therapeutic evaluation. We're continuously breeding cohorts of animals. This allows us to quickly build study groups for partners. There are currently 4 different CMT diseases represented in toolboxes, which we consider to be best-in-class models of each of these diseases. And for each of them, there's a well-established therapeutic evaluation test window as a result of longitudinal profiling of motor behaviors, electrophysiology, and histology responses. The CMTA is also engaged in a New York Stem Cell Foundation collaboration aimed at creating a bank of iPSC cell lines. There are currently 6 CMT diseases represented, and these cell lines are available to researchers and companies via an MTA. This slide shows some of the key service alliance partners we've relied upon to execute on preclinical studies. They provide capabilities that include model generation, breeding, and specialized testing and sample analysis. The path to initiating a preclinical testing alliance is pretty straightforward. There's typically an initial CMTA contact and preliminary discussion to scope out what the interest of the partner would be in doing CMT testing. This typically leads to a mutual non-disclosure agreement, and this allows sharing of information by both sides that can inform the strategy for going forward, and also incorporates CMTA expert access through our advisory boards. We have a number of people that can provide information about outcome measures and the different CMT disorders. The actual testing is under a master service agreement, and all the study planning is jointly performed between the alliance partner, the service partner, and the CMTA. We have agreements with the service providers and are responsible for directing the study together with them. The data from the study transfers to the alliance partner under the MSA. There are no additional agreements or negotiations. Studies are added to the MSA as they're planned, and a direct interaction with study directors facilitates the design and modification of study plans downstream. In other words, the CMTA, the alliance partner, and the service partner all participate in designing and approving a plan that we would put into practice. In return for hosting this alliance network and directing the effort with the service alliance partners, the CMTA simply asks for cost reimbursement of the study costs that are encumbered in doing the work. The typical preclinical workflow, which applies to genetic therapies, biologicals, and small molecules, starts off really with finding out what kind of existing exposure and formulation information is available from the partner. Now, the CMTA has a capability in this network to be able to provide additional information in the disease models, whether it's tissue penetration or plasma exposure. We can provide samples for analysis to the partner labs. We like to start off by performing a max tolerated dose assessment. The goal here is really to find the limit of tolerability of drug dosage. Tolerability defined as the absence of effect on broad motor skills. In some CMTs, we're able to do target engagement studies, and I'll show you an example of that in the next slide. All these studies really aim at a chronic efficacy study, and they typically are run for 12 weeks and involve specific motor behavior outcomes such as grip, balance, and gait, and terminal electrophysiology and histology outcome measures. This is an example of a study we performed with an alliance partner that was published in the Journal of Clinical Investigation. It involves a rat model of CMT1A. CMT1A is the most prominent CMT disorder and results from gene duplication in a Schwann cell gene for the protein, peripheral myelin protein 22. So in figure A, you can see an example of a target engagement readout where we can measure message expression in different nerve samples from the rats following drug dosing. What you can see here is that the ASO in green is able to substantially reduce the expression of message from the disease overexpression that normally is present. We also, of course, do a variety of other outcome measures, as I mentioned. In panel D on the middle right, you can see that we can look at the effect. We did look at the effect of an ASO on myelination of the nerve and normalizing it from the lowered state in the control animals. And figure E and F shows functional outcome measures of electrophysiology, where the ASO is able to normalize nerve conduction velocity and seam amplitudes towards in the direction of the wild type unaffected animals following dosing. It's good to show you a little snapshot of the kind of activity we've been engaged in, and in this slide shows you a summary for 2019 of our Therapy Development Alliance work. There were 9 active biopharma alliance partners in 2019. At the end of the year, we had 5 companies actively testing therapeutics, and 4 companies and 1 university group in relationship discussions. 5 groups sought access to CMTA Toolbox, either the stem cell lines or the animal models. And the breakdown of alliance partner interest shows testing across the different CMT disorders I showed you for the toolboxes. In all, we executed study plans for 22 preclinical animal studies across 5 partners and 3 CMTs. And positive results were obtained in models for 2 different CMTs through these studies. I wanted to leave you with a bigger picture of the kind of support the CMTA is putting into therapy development. It's assembled advisory groups of CMT experts. It sponsors investigators working to develop new CMT models and validate options for treatment. I've described to you already the preclinical turnkey support system we put in place. The CMTA sponsors efforts also in clinical markers, natural history studies, and clinical trials planning. And Patients as Partners is an advocacy effort that provides access to companies to its 70 U.S. patient chapters, where they can get direct feedback and interaction with patients, CMT patients. I just want to leave you with contact information. You can contact me to learn more about how the CMTA can work with you to aid your therapy development program. And thank you very much.